Hello and welcome back to ChäoS Head Noah. My name is Maybe Dennis, and last time we started off the episode by going to Senna's past, where we found out that her father essentially gave his family away for experimentation at Nozomi. It was really tragic because it involved Senna's mom, who had a child and took care of her for 2 years before finding out that the child actually died 1 month into birth, and she was actually in a delusion all this time. And Senna came in just to find her mother committing suicide, so it was extremely tragic on that part. And afterwards, we went to the perspective of Takumi, who decided to go home to see Nanami to make sure that she was alright, just to find that the street that his house was on is completely different than what he remembered. And after some confusion, Rimi confronts him and tells him that, in fact, he was a delusion this entire time. His past is kind of fake, and he's only been alive, really, for a year and a half. So, yeah, there was a lot of lore drops involved, and it kind of blew my mind. We also went to the perspective of Shogun, who was just going down the hospital, but it seems like no one can see him properly, and it seems like he actually goes to the end of the hallway that Takumi couldn't reach because there was a black wall, and we found out that he might actually just be Takumi Nishijo. And lastly, we went to the perspective of Yua and Ban, where they're in the Frieza office talking about the Garo Froggy stuff, and political stuff, and how Nozomi is taking control of the world. But then they also dive into the fact that a lot of suspicious people, such as Senna, Ayase, Kozupi, they're all related to Nozomi in some way, and especially Takumi, because Takumi used to go to AH hospital as well. But not only that, he's never actually been. Oh whoa! I haven't been using my controller because I've been talking too long. But it seems like Takumi has never actually been. No, that's not the right word. He's never actually left the hospital, according to the records. So it adds on to the theory that, you know, Shogun might actually be Takumi. And after the last thing that happened was Spawn gets a phone call. He finds out that Suo's been kidnapped, it seems. So yeah, we ended there, and now we're in Takumi's point of view. So that was a long recap because a lot of stuff happened. But let's head into it. I found myself heading back to the base. My legs were so heavy, you'd think that someone else had stuffed them with lead. It wasn't just my legs. My body was heavy, my whole body. I told myself that this weight I was feeling was proof that I was real. Nobody paid any attention to me as I walked on unsteady feet through the streets of the city at night. Until just a little while ago, I've been so afraid that people would notice me, would laugh at me, that I'd scream at them in my mind not to look at me. Right now, I wanted somebody, anybody, to look at me. I want them to see me. I want them to be aware that I existed. It was the exact opposite of what I just wanted a while ago. But nobody looked at me. If I screamed, they might look at me with contempt, but I didn't have the courage. I gripped my phone with sweaty hands. It was the phone I'd gone to buy with Nanami. There were just 4 numbers in its contact list. Rimi's number, Nanami's number, Misumi's number, and the number of my parents' house. I tried as hard as I could to think of a way to use these 4 numbers to prove that I was real. You could call your parents, you haven't called them yet. Just saying. No, I'm not delusion. I'm real. I'm Takumi Nishijo. I'm 17 years old. I'm a second year student at Suime Academy. I have a mom, a dad, and a little sister. Help me. Prove that I'm real. I was shaking terribly. My teeth were chattering. I wasn't cold, but I was shaking. The number I chose was Misumi's. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you are alive, right?
Miss. ダークだろ。どうしたんだ。リミとうまいこと言ったか。ちゃんと童貞卒業できたんだろうな。
God damn, Misumi.
感謝しろよ。気を使って二人にしてやったんだからよ。
Misumi was the same as ever. It was a relief. He knew me. He knew that I was Takumi Nishijo. That was proof that I couldn't be a delusion. Rimi was just lying.
そういえば、ついさっき美奈子から言われたんだけどよ。
Was Minako his girlfriend?
美奈子。
ああ、俺の女。で、美奈子が言うんだよ。
Uh-oh, what's gonna happen?
ここ1ヶ月ぐらい、 くなったけど、なんでって。こいつ何言ってんだって最初は思ったんだけど、そもそも俺、普通だったらお前みたいなやつとは絶対関わろうとしねえんだよな。リミを通して知り合ったってのはなんとなく記憶にあるんだけどよ、細かいことはなぜか思い出せねえんだよ
A month ago. A month ago is when Rimi said that she transferred into the class. Or when she met him for the first time, which was the Crucified. So not actually, Rimi actually transferred in a little bit later. So just confirming, everything happened within like the month. And it seems like, at least from our point of view, that was when the game started. So for all we know, all the memories that Takumi has with Misumi might actually not exist. And they were actually delusions made by someone else. It was the same as what I had just experienced. No, please no, don't say another word. Just talk about girls like you always do. Why do you have to talk about this today, of all days?
な。お前さ、いつ俺とダチになったんだっけ？
I got scared and hung up the phone. I thought I was going to cry, but no tears came. Instead, it just felt like my heart had been ripped out. Apart, I mean. Next, I decided to call my parents. No answer? Maybe? With trembling fingers, I managed to select the number and press the call button. Nanami was the one who had saved my parents' phone number into my phone. I hadn't been the one to do it, so it should definitely be the right number. Would Dad be at home at this hour, or would Mom pick up? Was Nanami there? If they picked up, what would I say? Was I supposed to ask if I was really their son? They might think I was an idiot. It was a stupid question after all. And what if they say no? What if they said, our Takumi is living in the living room eating dinner with Nanami? What if I called them to prove that I was real and end up proving that I was fake? What if they say, who are you? All kinds of terrible thoughts filled my head. I didn't want to know. I was so scared. I feel like they're not going to pick up. I was going crazy. It hurt to breathe. I couldn't get the air into my lungs. And then... Uh-oh. Somebody picked up. I tensed as I held the phone up to my ears. Her call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. From what I understand, it was like, yeah, it was pretty much that. It was like, the phone that you called was busy or something. Please call again. Nobody was going to prove that I was real. Nobody was there to help. I wanted to die. I looked up and saw that I was on the Yamanote Street. It was full of speeding cars. Oh no. No, don't do it! Maybe I'd be better off dead. If I wasn't real, there's no point in me being alive. If I was a monster, the only thing waiting for me in this world was suffering. There'd be no hope, no dreams. My own existence disgusted me. I wanted to be free from all this. If I died, I could be free. If I was dead, I wouldn't have to think about things. I wouldn't have to suffer. Nobody would laugh at me anymore. Nobody would betray me anymore. I longed for nothingness. I took a heavy, slow step forward. I found a spot without a traffic light. I staggered out into the road. It felt like salvation was waiting for me there. Someone stop him! The bright lights of a car's headlight, the piercing noise of a car's horn, the unnerving sound of a screeching brakes. Come on. Kill me. I'm not real. I'm a monster. Kill me. Okay, so who's gonna help us? The impact never came. I opened my eyes. The car stopped in front of me. I was still standing in the middle of the road. The driver got out and was screaming something at me. He was poking me in the chest and yelling. Why? I fell to the ground and started to cry. Why wouldn't anybody save me? Why wouldn't anybody free me? If I wasn't real, did that mean I wasn't even worth killing? Oh my god. Rimi took out her phone as she walked beneath the train tracks at Shibuya Station. She comes straight here after leaving Takumi. Beep, beep, beep. She picked the name labeled Nana out of her contacts and called it. The phone was picked up immediately.
私、実はちょっとした報告があります。ナナちゃんをこれから助けに行こうと思って。
So she calls her Nana and she called her phone, so why is she saying that to the person answering the phone? Rimi had a good idea who had Nanami and where she was being held. She'd been in the same position herself. She'd be in the same position herself? Someone else had kidnapped her before? Maybe something Nozomi? Maybe the person that has Nanami's phone is, I don't know, Shogun, who should be the real Takumi Nishijo? It was a part of her past she wanted to forget, but if it meant saving Nanami, she was willing to face her memories. The person on the other end of the phone reacted just as she had expected. Rimi chuckled.
私って信用されてないな。平気だってば。
Both her voice and expression seemed happy, even cheerful. There was no sign of the iron will inside her. Looking at her, you'd think that she was just having a normal conversation.
昔の話だしね。そもそも私の感情とナナちゃんを助けることとどっちを優先させるかなんて決まりきってることだよ。言ったでしょ。私はあなたの力になりたいって。
Okay, that's definitely Shogun. Yeah, that kind of confirms for me that Shogun is the original Takumi Nishijo. Because she's calling Nanami. So, but that means someone has her phone. She's calling someone that knows Nanami. So it must be someone, you know, close. And we saw her speak with Shogun in like a closer way. It's probably Shogun.
それに特には関わらせたくないの。
Rimi's expression clouded after she said those words.
ねえ、ちょっとだけ語っちゃっていいかな。タクにね、いろいろひどいこと言っちゃったんだ。
You know, at least there's one thing. It seems like she genuinely cares for Takumi, the one we know. And originally I wasn't sure what to think of her because it was clear that she was extremely suspicious. I mean, a lot of things are answered now. I mean, I wish we got a little bit more detail about the 4 delusions that overlapped that created the Crucified. But the fact that she suddenly showed up, the fact that she was being so nice to Takumi, and you know, the fact that a lot of her memories weren't consistent with what she was, her existence was at the time. Like, she was our friend for 1.5 years. No, no, we just met her. Especially Takumi. I mean, I know he doesn't look at people in his class, but she's a very noticeable person if you had thought that this person was a serial killer. So, yeah, I think a lot of the things that she said were true, but also, you know, genuine at this point. She really does want to help Takumi, but she knows that the truth will hurt him a lot. So she's technically in a similar position as, like, Senna's father, who really tried to help his wife by letting her dream about their kid longer, but ended up backfiring by causing her so much emotional damage that she ended up taking her life. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the other one is worse because, well, someone died as a result. But here, she's probably feeling the same guilt for, you know, bringing him out of the Matrix.
しかもそんなことしておいてすごく自分勝手なんだけど、私彼と一緒に過ごした時間はとっても楽しかったって思っちゃってるんだ。
ああ。
何もかもが妄想でまみれたまやかしでしかなかったのに、学生生活もあの学校に私やタクが通ってることも、大ちんと友達だっていうことも、私がタクと一緒にいようとしたことも、タクの存在そのものも。
Rimi's pace began to slow, little by little. People she didn't recognize were overtaking her from behind.
タクってどうしようもないくらい情けなくて、 どうしようもないくらい弱くて。きっと、普通の女だったら、見向きもしないような男の子
No
なんだ
normal
よ。
girl would even notice him. As she spoke, her grip on her phone tightened.
なのに、私の心には、楽しかったっていう気持ちがあるの。なのに、私の心には、もっと一緒にいたかったっていう気持ちがあるの。この気持ちって、何なのかな。
She looked up at the neon-lit sky. She couldn't see the stars. Rumi stood there, unmoving, for a moment. She smiled, just a little, at the person on the other end of the phone.
さてと、そろそろ切るね。本当に大丈夫だって。あなたは何も心配しないで。私が全部決着をつけてくるから。
So, that's another death flag to the list, isn't it?
ね、匠。
Yeah. I just noticed it this episode, but I think this is like one of the few times she says Takumi. When she talks to the Takumi that we know, she says Taku. So she says Takumi when she's being either extremely serious, or here where she's saying it to who I presume to be Shogun. Okay. Where is she going to next? Where are we going next, actually? To the base, I think. I no longer had the strength to do anything. The next thing I knew, I was back at the base. I must have gotten somewhere here somehow after failing to kill myself on Yamanote Street, but I couldn't remember how.
このコンテナって誰がどうやってここまで運んだんだろう。
He's got a good point, actually. We thought that this building was his parents, so no one would actually care if he lived on the roof. But yeah, who even brought the shipping crate here? Until now, I never even thought about it, but now I realized just how bizarre it was. It made me feel even worse. When I closed the door, the room became pitch black. I leaned up against it, motionless. The only sounds in the quiet room were the rumbling of my computer fan and my own shallow breathing. I thought that maybe in the darkness, I wouldn't have to think about how ugly I was, but the opposite was true. With the silence and darkness surrounding me, Rimi's cruel words were echoing in my mind over and over again.
あなたは妄想の存在なんだよ。
You know, I wouldn't mind this repetitive thing of saying you are a delusion as much if they didn't have that little ellipses in the middle, because it really extends it. Even my crying sounded creepy and disgusting. I felt like I was going to vomit. I was creepy enough already. If I didn't even exist like regular people did, that was even worse. I wanted to just disappear. I slowly walked over to the other side of the room, tripping over the garbage on the floor as I went. Wait, actually, now I think about it, if he didn't exist until a year and a half ago, that meant that he didn't actually make the formula. The original Takumi Nishijo did. So he is actually not the source of all of Senna's problems. He's actually a product of the person who created all of Senna's problems. Just saying. I don't think the sins of the father should, you know. I turned on the light and drove away the darkness. My eyes fell on the Seraton post-awakening version figure on my desk. I grabbed it and slumped into my chair. I held Seraton close to my chest. She was so small, so hard. She wasn't breathing. She wasn't speaking to me. She didn't have the warmth the 3D girl did. But if you delude yourself, then maybe, just maybe. But right now, Seraton was all I had. Rimi had left me. Nanami was missing. Senna had tried to kill me. Kozupi hadn't tried to stop her. Yuo was my enemy. And Ayase was in the hospital. These were the only girls whose name I knew, and none of them were going to do anything to help me. Reality was cruel. It didn't care about a monster like me. I gripped Seraton with shaking hands, tighter and tighter until I thought she'd break. I just wanted to disappear. But if that's what I thought, why not do something about it? I was just pretending to be the hero of my own big sad story. Nobody would take pity on me if I just sat here feeling sorry for myself. Nobody was looking for me, or at me. Everyone had abandoned me. No, they'd never been close enough to abandon me. I never had any friends. I didn't even have a family. I didn't even exist.
オタクばっかり並べてる。
Fine then. Just die already. Oh my god. Okay, I'm still waiting for that moment where he turns around in his room and there's just something behind him. I put Serotan down and stood up from my chair. I found a roll of cord under my bed and picked it up. Oh no, he's going with the hangman method. No. Actually, it just occurred to me. He never did that, he hasn't really done that, don't look behind me game that he used to always fail. I made a loop in it big enough for my head to fit through, and then tied the other end tightly to the pipe that served as the edge of my bunk bed.
死んでやる、死んでやるよ、死んでやるんだからな。
There was nobody to stop me. There was nobody but me in the room, of course. The cord was tied pretty tight. I realized that dying might be easier than I thought. I stuck my head through the loop and wrapped it around my neck. The bunk bed wasn't tall enough for me to hang myself from it while standing. But if I kicked my legs out from under me, that wouldn't matter. All I needed was the courage to do it. I gave Serotan one last glance. She was smiling at me from the desk. Oh man, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. The only ones who were there to see me go were Serotan and the row of wives on my shelf. I was so sad, so lonely. I felt a sniffle in the back of my nose.
さよなら。
I put my whole weight into the cord and kicked my legs out in front of me. The cord tightened around my neck. I could feel the pressure. It was biting deep into my flesh. It hurt. I feel like in this case, the cord would actually probably break. I realized both my hands had their fingers at my neck, trying to loosen the tight noose. I went to bring my legs back down and stand. But then I wouldn't be able to die. If I didn't keep putting my full weight on it, I wouldn't be able to strangle myself. I decided to just endure the pain. My throat hurt. It wasn't the lack of air that made it hurt as much as the pain of the cord digging into my neck. Come on, die already! The pain continued. It was so painful that I couldn't even pass out. My body shook. I was spinning in circles, looking like an idiot with my legs kicking out. The pipe on the bunk bed creaked. And then, my body lost its support. I fell butt first onto the floor. The pain from my pelvis made me roll around the floor in agony. Yep, the cord probably broke. I gasped for breath. I looked up at the cord with teary eyes and saw that it had snapped in two.
なんだよそれ。なんだよそれ。
Why was I failing now? Sure, I was a loser. I was a failure of a human being who had never done anything worthwhile in his entire life. Hell, I wasn't even human. But it wasn't fair that I couldn't even die. Why couldn't I die? I wanted to die. I wanted to die. After the pain I experienced trying to hang myself for the first time, I didn't have the courage to try it again.
楽に死ぬ方法を誰か教えてよ。
Even now, I was still looking for others to help me. I was so disgusting. I made myself want to vomit. I was just so pathetic. Oh god, that was uncomfortable. Ooh, this is AH Hospital at night. Hospitals empty out fast at night. Perhaps there was just too much life and too much death in daytime, and so these hours were used to restore the balance. There's no smell of life or death at this hour, only an empty silence. Yasuji Ban chuckled to himself. He was a weird guy to be thinking about these things, but it did seem especially quiet today. It wasn't even lights out yet, but the lights in the hallway were off and there were no nurses to be seen. The second Ban set foot in the lobby, he started to have a really bad feeling. There was no real reason for it. It was just what you might call a detective's intuition. My intuition's pretty damn good too, isn't it? Maybe the strangely religious thoughts he was having were his way of trying to take his mind off the feeling. He'd taken a taxi here and called Sua several times on the way, but Sua hadn't picked up once, a fact that spoke more about his current situation than any other words he could say. There was no time to waste. He had to find where in this huge hospital Sua was being held, and then rescue him. And without the kidnapper finding him either. Any kind of shoe would echo off the linoleum floor. Bond had taken off his leather boots before he'd come into the lobby. It was almost winter. He could feel the coldness of the floor through his socks, and it made him shiver. The sound of the main entrance automatic door opening echoed through the lobby before he heard the girl calling his name. Oh, it's gonna be Yua. When he saw Yua Kusunoki come into the lobby, he was so stunned that he couldn't speak. He quietly ran over to the girl. Actually, now I think about it, Yua's definitely going to be someone with a D-sword. I saw on like the poster for the game. So maybe, oh god. God, a lot of thoughts are going through my mind now, and all of them are pretty bad. I think she's probably going to experience a moment of extreme stress around now that will cause her to activate a D-sword. Ooh, that might be possible. And I feel like the catalyst for that might be something to do with Bond, because I feel like this is definitely a trap, and it's possible that he might bite it here. Unfortunately, I really like Bond, actually. So, yeah. When he saw Yua Kusunoki come into the lobby, he was so stunned he couldn't speak. He quickly ran over to the girl. She had a nervous look in her eyes as she glanced around her.
Oi. なんでついてきたんだ。身を隠せって言っただろうね。
Actually, either Bond, biting it, or maybe more revelations about Mia could cause Yua the extreme mental stress that would cause her to activate a D-sword. But from what I know, I don't know if Yua has any contact with any Nozomi people. So there's that. But there's also the thing with her parents where they were deluded into thinking that they didn't even have a second daughter. So, I don't know.
すみません。でも、私、
Bond looked around for Moase, but she was nowhere to be found. Bond scratched his head. She'd come here alone.
今すぐ戻れ。これは遊びじゃねえんだぞ。
それは、分かっているつもりです。
分かってるなら帰るんだ。
Uh-oh. Then he heard a creaking sound coming from one of the hallways connected to the lobby. Oh, that's a wheelchair. The hallway was empty and dark, and in the middle of it was an empty wheelchair, slowly coming towards him. Empty? Oh. Is it gonna have Darth Spider on it? And almost at the same time, they heard the sound of someone running up the stairs.
とにかくユアちゃんは帰れ。いいな。
Bond spoke, and then started to run. He raced up the stairs, following the sound of the footsteps, without bothering to wait for her answer. He was faster and more agile than you'd think from his usual laid-back attitude. Ooh, he's on the roof now. Following the footsteps led him to the roof of the outpatient building. There was a little garden there with planters full of flowers. Oh, yeah, is this where Ayase slapped Rimi? I think so. It was probably a place of relaxation for patients here, but unfortunately, it wasn't lit up. You couldn't tell what kind of flowers were blooming all around him. Ugh. So many damn stairs, man! The wind was strong up on the roof. He was still out of breath. He glanced quickly around him. The man whose footsteps he had heard had definitely run up here, but then he disappeared. Had he fallen for someone's trap? The footsteps had almost seemed like they were there to attract his attention. The only possible reason was that they wanted to lure him out here. Bond didn't have a gun on him right now. He was nervous without a weapon. He looked around to see if anything might serve as one, but came up empty-handed. He gulped and wiped the sweat off his forehead away with his fingers. One step at a time, he proceeded towards the center of the garden. There are plenty of places for a person to hide, behind that bench or on the other side of that planter. He sharpened all of his nerves to be ready no matter where the attack came from. The center of the garden was a big circle with benches all around its outer perimeter. He looked at each one of them in turn. Then he noticed something strange on one of them. He slowly walked over to it, being careful not to let his guard down. As he got closer, it began to take shape. I knew it. It was Darth Spider. It was the size of a soccer ball, round and black. It was a severed human head. Bond had been involved in a few murder cases where the victims had been dismembered. It reminded him of the photos he'd seen. His bad feeling got worse and worse. The thought that it might be his partner's head filled him with rage and frustration. Bond clenched his jaw hard. He took another step towards the bench. The thing on the bench wasn't moving at all. The cold wind blew. Oh, fuck. Okay. Then he heard the gunshot. It was so fast and so sudden that he froze. He was supposed to drop to the ground and look in the direction of the sound, but he couldn't. No, actually, there was no need to even bother anymore. He felt a burning pain in his chest and touched it with his hands. It was slick and wet. Something was pouring out of his body. He recognized the raw stench. And then a moment later, his brain recognized the pain. He had been shot. I'm like really sus of Sua now. Because like, dude, if it wasn't for that one Darth Spider line, I wouldn't have been so suspicious. But now that he was supposedly kidnapped, there's this mask here, and like, the wheelchair too. That entire thing that happened to Takumi might not have even been Shogun. I thought originally it might have been Shogun pushing him to use his D-sword, but it might actually not have been him at all. It might have been this person who might have been the new gen killer. Oh my god. And the person who kidnapped Nanami. And I feel like the detective being someone who is, one of the criminals is something that is explored a lot in media. And it's just looking more and more likely. I think he's probably been had by Sua. By the time he realized, his legs had already given out. He'd fallen face first onto the ground, unable to stand. Oh no. Oh, I know that blue suit. The footsteps from before were coming closer to him now. He looked up at the approaching man with the vision that was already starting to blur. A black shadow, a gun in his hand. It was too dark to see the man's face. He heard a voice. It was a voice he knew. Mamoru Sua walked right past his old partner, whispering in a mocking tone.
Suaがお前が俺を
そうっす。いやー、祝初発砲ってところっすか？
Damn, 100% kill rate, probably. Yeah, I don't think Bond's making out of this alive. I was like half joking before when I said that Bond was getting too deep into the conspiracy. But a part of me was like, he might actually die in this game. Oh man, so it explains a lot because so basically Bond explained the GE rate thing to Sua and just a lot of his thoughts because he trusted him. But now knowing that Sua was essentially on the other side and potentially one of the killers in this case, or potentially the new gen killer, I don't know if it's him or not, but he's definitely at the top of my list. I don't think Shogun is. Hazuki is very sus because of the pictures and her attitude, which is, I didn't want her to be evil because I thought she was really cute. But it seems like Sua and Hazuki are really suspicious, especially since they talked at 1.2. But Sua's on the top of my list, and Hazuki's second. Sua laughed as he reached over and picked up the thing on the bench.
ちなみに先輩、やけにこれに注目してたっすけど、そんなに珍しかったんすか？ ダーススパイダーのヘルメット。
Suo walked back to him and held the helmet right in front of his face.
ざまねえ。
Damn. You know, I didn't really trust Suo that much after he said Darth Spider, and having it come to fruition is kind of disappointing. He chuckled. He could barely even see now. His limbs felt terribly cold. There was a pain in his chest, but it wasn't unbearable. He felt an intense gaze, like somebody had been looking at him, but he couldn't tell if it was Suo or someone else. Realizing he'd only have a few minutes left to live, he forced his body to turn over. Now he was stretched out, looking up at the sky. It was cloudy, though, and he couldn't see the stars. Even if they had been out, his vision was too dark now to see them. As he coughed, he could taste the blood in his mouth. I wonder if Yuas is privy to all this. She might be like following Bon, and maybe she witnessed this.
だ。そう。お前はバカだ。まだガキで。どうしよう。
Dum dum.
バカな。デカだ。だが、俺はお前のこと結構勝手だ。
自分は先輩が鬱陶しくてしょうがなかったっすよ。
Annoying. He's gonna say annoying. I knew it.
まあ、気持ちはわかる。
Traders who remove their masks is always like, you are so annoying. I couldn't actually stand you being your partner. His breathing was getting rapidly shallower. There was a wheezing sound as the air fled from his throat. His vision was now totally black.
何者なんだ、お前。
That was Bond's last question before he passed out. Suo answered as he pointed the gun at him.
魔法使いっす。
A mage. We heard that term before, actually. Where did we say mage? I forgot. I think that's what Bon called Senna Aoi. You know, now I'm glad I always call her Senna Aoi instead, because if I said Senna, it also implies Hatano, but Aoi defines her character as, you know, on her mother's side. At some point, the wind had stopped. The darkness was suddenly quiet. The two silhouettes stopped moving. But that was only for a minute. Suo slowly pulled the trigger.
先輩に信仰の救い。
Oh, god damn it, he's part of the fun. Bam. Okay, so he's part of Nozumi. Okay. Things are not looking good for him. Grim entered the room. Okay. Hey, lol. Kill me. Kill me. Have you gone crazy, lol? Or did your IRL girlfriend dump you? Kill me. Let me tell you something you'll want to hear then. Did you hear about the 8th New Gen killer? Or was it the 9th? I forgot. I've lost track. Kill me. Kill me. I'm gonna stop reading this. If you stay a virgin till the age 30, you'll become a mage. He's probably gonna say. Instead of a wizard, you'll be a mage. You learn to use magic. That's important, so don't forget it. It'll be on the test. Sometimes he types it really quick. And while I'm telling you that things are important, Shibuya Scramble Crossing. Oh my god, this is going on really long. 1 hour from now, something big is gonna go down. Is that gonna be a killing, or is it gonna be the earthquake? And how would Grim know unless he was a killer? Raffle, cut that shit out. Go see what's happening then. You're famous. They'll all be excited to see you. Oh. Oh, Grim knows that Nightheart is Takumi. Maybe somebody will kill you there. I turned off the power to the monitor and pulled my legs onto the chair. I heard someone say oi. Oh! I was holding my one ally, Seraton, in my hand. Oni! My hands were so sweaty that her slender torso was now sticky and disgusting. Her arms were bent at an unnatural angle, too. So is this a delusion? Because it really... I honestly thought that she was gonna have like a missing hand, kidnapped, etc. Unless Rimi did it all, like, yeah, I got her out. She's on her own now. She's at your door. That voice. No. How? There's no mistaking it. Out of all the girls who visited the base, only one was the type to yell like that. Nanami was here. I was a little shocked at how little emotion this inspired in me. I just didn't care. Even if Nanami was here now, what difference did it make? It wasn't even that strange that she'd be here. Rimi had just said that she was going to save her, right? The way she was yelling was starting to annoy me. I'm a monster, just leave me alone. Just forget about me and think about your right hand instead. Not that I even know what happened to it. Never want to talk to another person again. But she was just so annoying that I found myself getting out of the chair and heading to the door. It felt like it was taking me a long time to get there. That's when I realized that I was afraid of seeing her. Okay, what's she gonna look like? They're gonna hide her hand or... Oh. Is she a delusion or not? I can't tell. She has her right hand. It's not bandaged. At the very least, we get to talk to Nanami, and we haven't done that in a very long time. I opened the door and saw Nanami there. She started in surprise, letting out a small cry, then fell silent. She'd been so loud a moment ago, and now she was quiet. I didn't understand. I'd never really seen her like this. So I started to wonder, was this a real Nanami? I couldn't say a word. I ignored her question and went back inside and sat down on my sofa. I gripped the Seraton figure again. I was holding it a little too tightly and my hand started to hurt a little, but even the pain was a delusion. Naomi followed me into the room silently. She seemed like she didn't know what to do, so she moved a few of the magazines out of the way and crouched on the floor. Please say something. I need to know exactly what you are and or what happened to you. She didn't say a word. Normally, this would be when she started to lecture me about something. But instead, she just crouched there, staring at the floor, depressed. I could see a bandage around her right wrist, poking out from under her sleeve. I don't see it, actually. I was about to tell her that if she sat like that, I'd be able to see her panties, but I stopped. This Nanami was just a delusion. I was, too. The whole world was just a delusion. A delusion taking place inside my brain. Me, and everything I was seeing right now, all delusions, all fake. Fake news. It didn't matter whether I could see her panties. Hell, it didn't matter if she walked through the streets of Shibuya naked. I looked away from Nanami and up at the ceiling. I started to count the rust spots there, for no real reason. I didn't want Nanami to be in my field of vision. It would just make me even sadder. The silence continued, and the only sound in my room was the sound of my computer fan. Nanami always used to be so annoying and loud when she came to the base. Maybe even those memories were a delusion.
ねえ、お兄。何か喋ってよ。
She sounded depressed. This wasn't the Nanami I knew, which meant that she must be a delusion.
どうして何も言ってくんないの？包帯のこととか気になんないの？
I focused my mind on counting the rust spots. I didn't care. You're just a delusion. Even if you're real, you're not my problem anyway. If I'm a delusion, I'm not even really your brother.
何か言って。お願いだから。
Suddenly, I could hear the sound of rustling cloth echo quietly throughout the room. My ears were ringing. My head hurt so bad, but this was all just a delusion anyway, so I didn't care. Nanami could take off her clothes or her bandage. No matter what weird thing she did, it wouldn't surprise me. I didn't care. This was a delusion. I was one too. Of course weird stuff would happen randomly. That was how it worked.
ほら、見てよ。
I didn't look. I was scared to look.
青技、だいぶ消えてくれたな。最初はすごく腫れてたんだよ。バスケしてて、転んで打撲したんだ。見てもくれないの？ナナってお兄に心配されたこと一度もないな。逆はしょっちゅうなのに。
I didn't want to see anything anymore. I didn't want to think about anything.
ねえ、Nanami。
I called out to the girl in front of me, who might or might not be my sister.
お前が本物でも偽物でもどっちでもいいよ。
There was only one thing I wanted now.
僕を殺してくれないか。
Oh my god, that's the end of the scene. Did Yua hear the gunshot? Just outside in the front lobby of Tokyo General Hospital, Yua Kusunoki was staring at what lay beyond the automatic door. Bon had told her to leave, so she had come outside, but she had been too worried to go any further than that. Bon had disappeared up the stairs, chasing a mysterious figure. It had been less than 3 minutes, but she was looking into the lobby to see if he would come back. After Bon had gone alone to the hospital, Yua had ignored Momose's warning and gone after him. She needed to know whatever it would take to find out the truth about her sister's death, and who had killed her. Somebody had sent Bon those threatening phone calls and kidnapped his partner, Suwa. Whoever it was, they were probably the person who killed Mia. Something was telling her that. Well, your instincts aren't always right, but they're kind of right, but they're not right exactly, so like, maybe? And so, when the urge had come to follow him, she couldn't fight it off. Despite all of his warnings that getting involved was dangerous, she'd come here anyway. Of course, now that she was here, there wasn't anything she could do. She was just a powerless teenage girl. Her hope had been that Bon would heroically catch the killer, and then she'd have a chance to question him. Why did my little sister have to die? That was a question Yua wanted to ask the most. She felt somebody looking at her. She glanced around nervously. The sun had been down for more than 2 hours, but the hospital's front entrance was eerily silent. The after-hour entrance was right next to it. This was also where the emergency patients would be brought in, but there was nobody there. A train was passing by right alongside the hospital, but there was almost no cars on the wide street in front of it, and no pedestrians at all. This spot between Shibuya and Shinjuku, 2 towns that never slept, was like a shadow born of 2 powerful lights. Whoever was looking at her, she couldn't find them. She put a nervous hand on her chest and took a deep breath to calm her nervousness. Then, for no real reason, she looked towards the hospital wards. Bam? Well, good thing for the game that, it's a twin because they could use the same portrait and model. Okay, so that's her twin. That's probably what's gonna cause her to get her D-sword. A girl was standing there. The lights at the entrance towards the wards were off, and it was hard to see, but for some reason, she could see the girl clearly against the darkness.
Mia-chan.
She whispered, knowing it was impossible and yet unable to stay silent. The girl looked just like her. It looked just like her dead younger twin sister. She recognized the girl's outfit too. It was her younger sister's clothes. She thought for a moment that it might just be a ghost, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood up on end. Whoops. The girl turned around and ran, heading towards the automatic door that marked the entrance to the hospital ward. When she got close, the door opened. So, she wasn't a ghost then. Yuas stood there for a moment, stunned, before starting to run after her. The wards must have been past lights out, because it was even quieter than the outside. Each step Yuas took echoed far down the hallways. Just like the outside, the quiet was almost eerie. The girl disappeared up the stairs. She heard what sounded like a faint laugh. It was like a scene out of a horror movie, Yuas thought to herself. She took a slow step up the stairs, and then another. She arrived at the second floor. She looked down the hallway, but there was nobody there. She wondered if maybe she was just seeing things when... That's a bad sign, man. That's literally... I guess this is literally a haunted hospital now. She heard a girl's laugh from the floor above. The voice, the way she laughed. Yuas knew them both well. Third floor. She went up to the third floor, looked down the hallway, and saw... a girl who looked just like her standing there. One of the victims in the first New Gen case, the group dive, her sister who died 2 months ago. She was standing there, as real and solid as anything around her. Yuas took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes, but when she put them back on, Mia was still there.
Mia-chan, nano?
Same thing. We're seeing doubles now. The voice was far too clear to be a hallucination. There was a fearless smile on the girl's face. It was just like Yuas remembered her. Mia was always like that. She always used to laugh in such a mocking way so she could play the villain.
Mia-chan.
本当に私がミアであなたがユアだと思う?
Yeah, I'm not too surprised. I brought this up, but like, whenever there are like cases where there is a twin or like identical twins and one is missing, or like one is dead, usually dead, I feel like they usually try to pull a twist where the person that you thought, like for example, we thought Yuas was Yuas, but the Yuas we know is probably going to be Mia, and the sad backstory she was sharing was actually her own backstory, but it might, in her case, she might have thought it was an illusion all this time, rather than thinking that she was, rather than her actually deceiving. So she might have been deluded by herself that she was actually Yuas. But this line, I wasn't actually sure. That was just like a crackpot theory that I threw out because she mentioned that she had a twin. But now that I see this line, I'm pretty convinced.
どういうこと?
もし逆だったらあなたはミア死んだのはユア殺したのはあなた
Yuas died and you killed her?
何を言っているの?
あなたは親に愛される姉が疎ましくてネットで殺人を依頼したのよ
Hired a killer on the internet?
しかも自殺に見せかけるように見ず知らずの4人も一緒に飛び降りさせた
I don't know.
あなたは姉になりすまして妹の死を悲しみ涙を流しているふりをしながらこれまで姉が独占していた親の愛を手に入れて心の中ではほくそ笑んでいる
違うわ
Actually, maybe they're doing the double reversal. Maybe they're just bringing up this possibility to make us think that, but it might not actually be true. Or maybe they're doing the triple reversal and... Okay, too much.
私はユアよ
誰がそれを証明するの?
私はユアのはず
Because this game is so, like, deep into the delusions, I don't know what the heck is real or not.
でも確信が持てない
私を私だと証明するものって何?
Well, what proves that Takumis is Shogun? Got him!
顔? 名前? 記憶？
自分のことなのに。
Actually, notice this is technically wrong.
名前？記憶？
It was supposed to be my looks, my name, and my memories, but it's the wrong order.
自分で自分を証明するなんて不可能。
私がミヤだっていう可能性もあるの。
あなたはいろいろと調べていたじゃない。
多重人格、浮遊病、
記憶捏造、それから妄想。
So how would this, for all intents and purposes for now, I'm gonna call the girl that we know Yua and the other girl Mia, just to make things simpler. So how does Mia know about this? Like, it implies that she was watching Yua the entire time. All the research Yua had done about how imperfect memories were and how easily they could be faked suddenly seemed truly real for the first time. Unless this is a delusion in Yua's own head to make her to essentially reveal the truth to herself, because I mean, I'm assuming that her sister is dead. It doesn't make sense for her to be here and know all this information if she were alive, in my opinion, and wear the same clothing and everything, you know? She didn't know who she was. Who was she? Oh, she's having the same dilemma that Kosupi had, where it's like, who am I? Who are you? Mia shook her head violently.
あなたは誰？
Yua, the girl who always played the goody two-shoes, who was automatically loved and praised by her parents? Mia, the girl who always played the bad girl, who actively sought out her parents' hate while being jealous of the affection that gave her older sister?
さあ、私も。
Mia, or maybe Yua, began to guide Yua, or maybe Mia. Without a sound, they began to walk.
私と同じ目に遭いなさい。
This is kinda trippy now. Yua and Mia, two identical twins, indistinguishable from each other, the boundary between them grew more and more indistinct. Okay. Oh. Okay, are they gonna try another group jump in a way, but it's only one person? Oh man, this game really likes jumping, isn't it? I'm surprised Takumi didn't think of it. The two buildings were two huge boxes standing in the darkness. But compared to the huge skyscraper of Shinjuku next to them, they were like children looking up at grown-ups. The roof of the ward. That was where Mia brought Yua. There was a gap torn in the corner of the tall fence surrounding it, just big enough for a person to pass through. It wasn't clear who had made it or why. Mia and Yua went through the gap and stood on the edge of the roof. In front of them was the outpatient building. It wasn't as tall as the building that they were on, and they could see the garden below. But there were no lights there, and even if someone was there, you couldn't tell. The wind was blowing hard on the roof. The two girls' clothing and long, soft hair flapped violently as the wind blew into them.
私たちはもともと一つだったんだから。
At the very start, we were one? I don't get this now. What do you mean by we were one?
また戻るだけ。一歩を踏み出せば。
Oh, wait. Oh, so maybe she didn't have a sister, and it was all multiple personality disorder, so she made herself a sister, and that's why the parents were like, we only had one child, because they did. It's just that that child had multiple personalities. Oh, but then why was there a body for the group jumping? I don't know. I'll just keep going.
あなたは私になる。
Yua's voice was monotone. Her eyes were empty. She spread out her hands to keep her balance against the violent winds. Mia was right next to her, spreading out her hands in the same way. She turned to Yua and laughed.
耐える必要なんてないよ。あなたは私の痛みを知らなくちゃならない。
You shall know my pain. The world shall know
飛
pain.
んで。
Oh man, this escalated significantly quicker than some other attempts.
そうすれば、私もあなたも同じ痛みを共有するわ。
私はどっちなの？私 あなた。
それを聞いても意味はないわ。どっちにしたって。あなたは飛ぶ。
All hesitation disappeared from within her, and Yua went to take a step forward. Oh! Wow, what perfectly timed gunshot. Good job, Suwa. Oh my god, wow, that timing. A gunshot tore through the night air. Suddenly, Yua came back to her senses. She looked down beneath her and screamed. She saw how high up she was, and suddenly felt dizzy. I wonder if she'll see Mia now, or if that was because that was a delusion and if that gunshot snapped her out of it. She lost her balance and almost fell. She grabbed desperately to the fence behind her and just barely managed to avoid falling. The gunshot had come from the roof on the other building below her. She looked down at it again. She could just barely make out human figures in the middle of the rooftop garden. Oh, so she could actually witness it. And because there are 2 gunshots, she can also turn her attention towards it for the second one. There are 2 of them. One was lying on the ground. The other was standing next to it.
Bansan.
Had the detective shot someone, or had someone shot him? Oh, it's dark, so she can't see.
何をしてるの？
Okay, so she's still there.
どうして私と同じ痛みを味わおうとしないの？そんなの卑怯よ。ずるいわ。
みやちゃん。
違うわ。私はユアよ。
ユアは、私。
ミヤはあなた。
あなたは一体、何なの？
私はあなたの望んだもの。あなたは私の望んだもの。
Oh, jeez. Oh, she was really close. Mia leapt at her. She wrapped her hands around Yua's neck. Yua felt incredible pressure on her throat. She couldn't breathe. Mia was no ghost. There was a real physical body in front of her, and it was strangling her.
お願い。死んでよ。今日ぐらい、私のお願いを聞いて。いつも我慢してきたんだから。
Yua's vision turned red. Her hands flailed through the air, but she couldn't grab onto anything. She was going to die here. In the face of this overwhelming fear, Yua used every muscle in her whole body to push back against Mia with a strength she didn't even know she had. But Mia was strong. She didn't budge at all. Now even Yua's thoughts were turning red. Her mind felt like it was being covered in sticky red blood. She shook her head violently, and her glasses fell off. Now, from the outside, you couldn't tell who was who. Whoever won could be whoever they wanted to. If Yua died, Mia could become Yua. If Mia died, Yua could become Mia. Yua felt a growing sense of resignation within her. In front of her was the face of Mia, or perhaps Yua, blurred with hatred. She looked away, not wanting to see it. Schrodinger's Yua. I have no idea who is who now. With red eyes and red vision, she saw one of the flower beds and flowers on the rooftop garden. Okay, there we go. It felt like there was a strange shadow mixed in with them. Maybe her eyes were playing tricks on her without her glasses. Okay, yeah. So I was thinking that maybe something in this hospital would make her activate her D-sword, and it was her confrontation with her sister. It felt like there was a strange shadow, okay. But now she couldn't even breathe. She felt a tiny sense of peace working its way through the pain. Part of her thought that maybe it would be okay to give up, but her survival instinct made her reject the peace that she felt. Yua reached out towards the strange shadow. The planter was at least 2 meters away. It was far too away for her hand to reach. But she felt something cold and hard in her hand. She grabbed it, and almost unconsciously. And then her fading consciousness became clear again, as if a fog had lifted. Oh, jeez. Powerful, invisible shockwave shook the air. Okay, we get this looping animation, which is kind of cool. Red lights, like flower petals, danced in the sky, and her twin sister was knocked away. Knocked away? Okay, I thought she would just disappear because she was a delusion, and she now has access to the D-sword. Yua coughed and staggered to her feet, then looked down at the item in her hand. It was a sword. So sharp, so dazzling and elegant. So aquiline, so pure. So bewildering and mystical. So delicate and fragile. So beautiful it brought you to tears. So beautiful it brought you to tears. Wow. Yeah. New form has been activated. The thing in her hands. The first thing it reminded her of was a sword that she told Bon about. The one that she'd seen Ayase holding in the tunnel. She has the power to see.
今のは何？
Mia crawled out of the planter that the shockwave had knocked her into. She was holding her head in pain.
あなたは何をしたの？
I don't know what you are. Are you a delusion? Are you real? Are you a fabrication? Are you tangible? You are definitely tangible. But like, is there a way to make you disappear?
私はミヤちゃん。私やっとわかったわ。どうしてここまで一生懸命あなたの死の真相を調べていたのか。私を殺そうとしたの？私はまた殺されるところだったの？また？結局私はあなたが怖かったのよ。当てつけに死なれたと思ったの。あなたがわからなかったの。あなたが死んだ理由は私のせいじゃないって証明して安心したかった。最低のお姉ちゃんね。
So, Yua thinks that she's Yua. Okay.
どうして死んでくれないのよ。
There was no sense in talking to her anymore. Two hearts that had been one were now completely separate, never to rejoin again. Mia came at her once more. Yua remembered the pain she felt just a moment ago and shivered in terror. Slice? Oh, there was a flash. The sword in her hand carved into a sharp arc. It sliced the ghost in two. Mia froze. She had a stunned expression on her face. She ran her hands along the wound, which ran from her left side to her right shoulder. Oh my god. Really, really sharp blade. But there was no blood.
ミヤちゃんは2ヶ月前に死にました。それならあなたは誰なんですか？
Large particles, big enough to see with the naked eye, began to appear around Mia's body. Okay, so she was a delusion. Wait a second. Have you ever seen Takumi bleed? I mean, he has been beaten up before. I think he said he bled. I don't remember, like by those 3 bullies. Other than that, I'm not sure. Her body began to bubble and gradually fall apart, its outlines fading away. And then it transformed into something else. Yua looked on in shock. In Mia's place appeared a fat man. He was wearing a denim shirt and filthy jeans and a backpack on his back. Oh, it was an otaku. It was a man she'd never seen.
誰？あなた誰？
It was one of the otakus working for Nozomi.
どうしてミヤちゃんの姿に？どうやって？
Confused, Yua began to step backwards, the D-sword still in her hand. The man hadn't expected her to see him. He appeared and he was beginning to panic himself.
お前こそなんで？まさかこのガキギガロマニアックスか？聞いてないぞ。くそ、どうしたら？
The object was almost perfectly level as it flew at him, as if gravity didn't exist. Wait, the object? Is it gonna be Senna? By the time he turned around, it had already been stabbed. Oh wait, it had already stabbed itself into the backpack he was carrying. Okay, I thought that said the backpack had already stabbed itself. I'm like, wait, what? A pale flash of light came from the backpack. He went perfectly stiff as if it hit by an electric shock. His eyes rolled back into his head as he fell forward on his face. He was foaming at the mouth, and his body was twitching. The thing that had struck his backpack was a D-sword. A D-sword. It was a beautiful carved sword like the one that Yua had grabbed from the air. Oh, that's Ayase's. Oh, right, she's at the hospital. Completely forgot.
これ
Yua recognized the weapon. She'd seen it once before. Someone was coming closer. Yua looked up. She saw someone appear out of the darkness. She said like, "Yes, you are one of the chosen knights of Gladiel."
何事かと思ったら、こんな騒ぎになっていたのね。
岸本さん
Kept you waiting. Ayase gave Yua's sword a single, expressionless glance.
感じる。大いなる意志を。私がこの病院に居続けた意味は、こういうことだったんだわ。
Yua had fallen to the ground in shock. Ayase picked up Yua's glasses off the roof and offered them to her, taking a knee to look down at her face. Her slender fingers gently stroked Yua's hair as she put the glasses on her face.
君も、グラジオールの黒騎士だったのね。
I knew it. Her smile was weak and fragile. I didn't see a smile on her face. Back to the room. I want to know more about you.
殺してくれないか。
You said you got it from basketball, but that seems like that don't seem right. Nanami's face tensed up, but she quickly forced a fake smile.
お兄、つまんない冗談やめなよ。
That wasn't how Nanami would react. Instead of laughing it off, the real Nanami would yell, "That's not funny!" And then I'd be in for a long lecture. Not that it mattered anyway. It didn't matter. If this Nanami wasn't going to kill me, then I wasn't interested in her at all. She could disappear right now and I wouldn't care. Seraton and I stared into each other's eyes. If Seraton was 3D, she'd grant my wish. I knew. If I didn't exist anymore, why couldn't I be a 2D instead?
ねえ、そんな冗談は置いといて、その話があるんだ。あのね、お兄にもらったバングル、なくしちゃったの。どうせ適当に扱ってたんだろうとか言わないでね。ナナ、そんなことしてないもん。本当に大切にしてたもん。なのに、どこでなくしたのかもわかんなくて。
She actually cared about that thing? How stupid. From my perspective, the Jedi are evil. Sorry, I just had to do it. I couldn't even say Jedi right because I was mid-laugh. It was the stupidest thing in the world. It was a present from me, wasn't it? Nothing I gave somebody could have any value at all.
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
How could I be sure I'd even given it to her? Maybe the fact that I'd given it to her was just a delusion too. Yeah, like, I don't know what is real in this game anymore. This whole world was worthless. Everything in my memories was worthless.
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
お兄が初めてくれたプレゼントだったのにな。なんでなくしちゃったりしたんだろう。
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
お兄、聞いてる？
No.
僕は妄想じゃない。僕は妄想じゃない。
I'm gonna start skipping it if he says that again.
お兄は、どうして、いつもそうなの？
Her head slumped forward. She clenched her fist tightly. Nanami's whispers was soft.
たまには、お兄ちゃんらしく、頼りがいのあるとこ、見せてよ。
What? You're asking the wrong person for help. I'm just a delusion.
僕は妄想
Okay,
じゃ
I'm
ない。
gonna skip that. I stared at Seraton's smile, making sure not to let myself see anything else. There's no reason to listen to Nanami's words. There was no point. I was just a delusion.
今までずっと、ナナがしっかりしなきゃって思って、頑張ってきたけど、でもね、やっぱり、ナナだってたまには、 誰かに甘えたいよ。ううん。誰かにじゃなくて、お兄に甘えたいよ。
To be fair, Nanami has been a really good sister so far. It's just that Takumi's attitude to her made, oh man, it was not great.
僕はもう
だって、お兄は、ナナのお兄なんだから、お兄に頼りたいって思うこと、ナナにもあるんだよ。
僕はもう
そりゃ、いつもああしろこうしろ言われて、お兄も嫌だろうけど、それは、お兄がだらしないから仕方なく。
That is true. I don't want to do anything for you because I only care about myself.
言いたいことはそういうことじゃなくて、
僕は
ナナだって、いろいろ愚痴を聞いてもらいたい時とか、泣きたい時とか、あるんだよ。お兄に優しくしてもらいたい時とか、あるんだよ。
僕は
ねえ。
Yeah, I can't. He's saying it a lot. I know they're trying to hammer in the fact that he's depressed, but I feel like to me it's already extremely clear.
ナナの話、聞いてよ。
Oh, finally something different.
ナナ、今、すごく悲しいんだよ。お兄にもらった大切なバングル、なくなっちゃって、声出して泣きたいくらい悲しくて辛くて、お兄に抱きしめてほしいのに、お兄に頭撫でて慰めてほしいのに。ねえ、お兄、今日だけはナナのわがまま受け止めてよ。
I slowly looked up and saw Nanami crying. She was trying to hold back the tears, but they were falling from her eyes anyway. We didn't really get any answers, and holy crap, Rimi is in battle mode. Okay, so if she is here to save Nanami, then that Nanami that we saw is probably a delusion. A delusion made by who? I am not sure. But I think that at the moment there are two Nanamis, and one of them is going to be a delusion. Oh man. Like, I'm kind of confused on like types of delusions, because Takumi is a delusion, but he's been like real booted. I think he's essentially his own being at this point, and not just like a one-off thing like what Mia was, where Mia was actually a delusion made by someone else, but they may or may not have been real booted. I think they were just kind of a illusion instead of a delusion. And I feel like this Nanami, it might be the same. I'm really not sure, but yeah, I'm not sure. Oh boy, but rest in peace, my boy Bon. He was a likable character, aside from the times when he was purposely acting creepy so that he would actually lead into some case stuff as a joke. But other than that, I really liked how smart he was and how analytical, how much trust he put into Momo for his investigations, and how he was able to really connect a lot of the dots. I know Suo was technically outsmarted him, but that's because he's just an evil big bad who, you know, it was my plan all along and I was working in the backgrounds to make sure that you wouldn't catch me. But I really liked Bond, and I am like pretty sure he's dead. I know they killed him off screen, but he got shot point blank. I'm pretty sure he's dead. I don't think they're really involved in the delusion stuff, so yeah, unfortunately, that might be the last that we see of Bond. But we got the Yuas thing resolved, and she got her D sword, and now that she has it, she can work with Ayase since they clearly know each other being D sword users. So that's cool. I think the last, okay, so the number of people who have D swords is Takumi, or kind of, because he didn't actually get it yet, but he has one. Rimi, Senna, Kozupi, Ayase, Yua, and there should be a seventh one, which I'm pretty sure is Nanami because of the cover art that I saw. So, where we've unlocked 6 out of the 7. Don't know how Nanami's gonna get it because I am not sure where Nanami is. I don't know which Nanami is real and which one isn't. But we'll continue with saving Nanami or helping Nanami next time. And until then, I will be seeing you. See ya!